Degree Team and the co-chair of the reNEW Minnesota African American Table. For me, the reNEW Minnesota vision is the core of all the work that I do in the government of race, my community activism, even my connection in helping to bring my perspective of the national agenda to the minds and ears of our locally elected officials. The reNEW Minnesota vision is very encompassing and demands a change in direction for our state. It is truly a different path to be explored. The reNEW Minnesota vision calls out for a restructuring of who holds the power in this state, the role of government in our lives, and the essence of democracy. I know this vision for Minnesota will not be achieved overnight and could take years to accomplish, but we need to make bold changes immediately if we are to get started down a new path. I plan to be around to hold the next governor speak to our vision. When and if you are elected governor, you will be assuming leadership from an individual who has little regard for any kind of progressive thinking. What will you do to make sure you keep your eye on the renewed vision, our shared vision, and not be derailed with the mess at hand? Plainly put, you are walking into a state where no easy solutions exist. So how do you prioritize and not park the renew bus?
Okay. Dave, the last question is sort of what do you do to get there on November 2nd? November 3rd is when we start governing. And those next months are critical. And that's when we bring people together. That's where we're all in a big room, big table, big discussion, not about how we can water down the healthy legacy environmental bills so we can get a hearing in the Senate Jobs Committee. Not so we can water down something else so we might get a hearing there, or we can pass it out of there. So when we start putting front and center, this is the agenda. I think I've got a reputation as a scrappy fighter on things. I think I've done pretty good. I've won a lot of fights people didn't think I could win. Paul Wellstone had the same thing. But I'm not by nature the guy who likes to fight. I'm the one who likes to say, here's what needs to be done. Let's lay out a vision. Let's spell it out. Let's put it together, and now let's govern around that. And you collectively, we collectively, and I wasn't in the room on it, putting this document together, said this is what we value. I think I've been living that, but I think I've never articulated it in the way, and you've done it very artfully. And now that's when we sit down and we start saying, how do we make that happen? And yes, the challenges are big. That's when you need the greatest leadership. Floyd B. Olson, 70, 80 years ago during the Great Depression. We need that kind of leadership now because we have that much of a turnaround in direction. I don't think there's an area of the state where we don't need to turn around our direction. And like with healthcare, a plan that covers everybody, my Minnesota health plan, we put that out and we say, how are we going to make that happen? We've already been organizing on that. A lot of people here have been organizing on that. And we say, you know, somebody asked me, how are you going to pass these taxes? Well, the second year of my administration, we're going to put the Minnesota Health Plan on the table. That will, they'll have a whole year to digest it and pass it through some committees. And tell me, if you don't pass this, we're not going home. You're coming back here for special session until we pass it because people are dying for a lack of health care. And we're going to fix it. But I think the main thing we need, I don't want you to have to hold me accountable. I want you to be at the table setting up how we're going to make this happen. Because no one person can do it alone. No governor can do it alone. Frankly, no governor and legislature can. It has to be engaging the whole population. Whether it's volunteering in the schools, whether it's helping out in the community in various ways, whether it's working overtime to make something happen. We've got to work together and make this a state that works. And I'm confident we can do that. Seriously.
So John, I'll follow up on this. And I think you spoke to the part of not getting narrow in our vision. But nonetheless, you're going to be stepping into a mess. And that's real. So how can you get in that mess? Can you talk about some of the maybe out-of-the-box ideas that you have in terms of how you can both solve the mess and move the vision forward? Because one or two of your items have a price tag attached to it.
Oh, a lot of them do. And a lot of them, the Minnesota Health Plan actually will save us money. It will save us a lot of money. And I think in terms of out-of-the-box ideas, I think the bottom line, the only way we're going to solve our budget problems, we're not going to do it by raising taxes. We're going to have to raise taxes. We're not going to be able to cut our way out of it. We're going to have to do it by addressing the problems. And I think the whole issue, domestic violence, we mentioned it earlier. If we take care of, if we help have services available in every county in the state, for women and children and men sometimes who are abuse victims, if we have services to get them out of the house and get them into safe communities, and intervention services for the abusers so they are less likely to abuse, or less likely to continue abusing. That costs money, yes, but it's a lot cheaper than letting the abuse continue, waiting until we end up locking somebody up in life because they killed people. It's a lot cheaper to address it up front. So I think that we have to recognize that if we want to fix our budget and address all these problems, we're going to have to do it by tackling the problems. And I don't know if that actually addressed the issue you have, so maybe I'll ask if I address the issue right, then maybe I can get around the stop sign.
I got this one there.
Yeah. We'll actually go to Paul next. Sorry, 6 seconds.
My name is Paul Solzinski. I'm a crop and livestock farmer from southwestern Minnesota. I've worked on ag issues at the Minnesota legislature since the 1985 farm crisis. Over that time, I noticed that the state capital increasing dominance of metro-based corporate agribusiness and commodity groups. Checkoff funded commodity groups like the pork producers have been co-opted by corporate interests and no longer put family farmers' interests first. What is happening at the farm gate during this period of time, family farmers like me have had to do more with less. We have a state legislature that even with the DFL majority does nothing to stop this. Now, one bright spot for family farmers and the land has been increasing demand for food that is sustainably and very organically grown on family farms. So what happened last session when the overall ag budget was cut by about 8%? The democratically controlled legislature, led by the DFL ag chairs, along with the governor, cut key organic and sustainable ag programs over 70%. Question: what will you do as governor to put the interests of family farmers before corporate agribusiness? What skills, background, and vision do you want your ag commissioner to have?
I want to start, before I get to the issue at heart, I want to mention what you said, despite DFL majorities putting together these bad farm policies, because that's the trouble. We've got 2-to-1 majorities. I mean, not literally 2-to-1, but almost 2-to-1 in the House and more than 2-to-1 in the Senate. We can't pass. We're cutting and slashing and burning. These are Democrats who are elected by a 2-to-1 margin doing these harmful things. Yes, we can blame the governor for putting us into a box, but we shouldn't be doing that, and that's what we've got to change. That's why we need a governor who's going to lead the legislature instead of saying, well, I got to deal with this, and they're going to be doing this, and the Ag Committee is going to be pushing this way. For an Ag Commissioner, I want to have somebody who believes in sustainable agriculture and sustainable environmental practices. That's why we're having a hearing. My health committee is having a hearing, I think it's next week, on the dairy thing in Thief River Falls, the outrageous one. That's not Twin Cities corporate agriculture, that's South Dakota corporate agriculture movement. We're having a hearing on that because it's a desperately urgent public health crisis. We've got to address those. I think that my record has been, worked with Van Stewart plenty of times over the years. My record has been clear, and I've stood up to those chairs when they've done that. And I mean, that's why I want to work. You know, you folks have been speaking out on this agenda for as long as I've been around. I've been speaking out on this. We need some leadership to put together the vision that says we're going to have the family agriculture and the sustainable agriculture and the organic agriculture. We need to have it so the DFLers in the legislature are fighting for the right cause. And let me say one more thing about that. And that is that if we don't fix the role of money in politics, we're never going to change it. Because we have these big majorities and we can't pass. I was chair of the Environment Committee, got removed from it for being too pro-environment by the DFL caucus. That's a shame. Why is that? It's because the business community dumps a lot of money, not just in the Republican caucuses, but in the DFL caucus. We structure the committees, we rig the system against it. And as governor, I'm going to speak out against that because I want to make sure that Renew Minnesota's vision is out front in the Capitol. And that legislators, DFL legislators, recognize this is what we pay lip service to, now we're going to do it.